Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Welcome to the POMcast. I am Stephen Willis on this Monday morning. We don't have a lot of news to get to today, so this will probably be a little bit of an early release type day. But we do want to thank you for joining us. And as always, we'll do a little house cleaning at the beginning, but you can catch all of our stuff over at the Rebel Walk, along with all the information you could ever need with Ole Miss sports. So go to therebelwalk.com to get that. If you're interested in Positively Ole Miss, you can catch us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at the Rebel Walk. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. We're on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. You'll always know we're streaming. You'll never be surprised, and it just sends a notification right to your phone, and you'll be good to go. And we also have a Twitch channel, Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. You can also catch our stuff at Willis Digital Media on YouTube and Twitch as well. So that's the kind of the good stuff coming up. Hit subscribe for YouTube or Twitch or whatever. You'll always know when we're streaming. You'll never get left out in the cold. And we do this every weekday. 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 Central. We're on the air just spewing information out like, a geyser or something. So you can always do very well talking about Ole Miss sports, finding out stuff here. But we mentioned that there's not a lot of stuff to get to today. Of course, Ole Miss is a number one seed in the NIT, which of course means they did not make the NCAA tournament. They are listed as number 4 on the alternate list if somebody gets COVID. But as of right now, Ole Miss plays the 19th against Louisiana Tech. It's a big Ole Miss Louisiana Tech week, by the way. We'll get to that in a minute. In Texas, all the tournament is going to be played in Texas, and they've gone from 32 teams to 16 teams. So it's basically just a Sweet 16 from the beginning. Ole Miss plays Louisiana Tech, who's the 4 seed, and the winner gets Western Kentucky and can't remember the other one, the 2-3 game. I remember Western Kentucky because of Rick Stansberry, and that should be fairly interesting, but Mississippi State plays St. Louis, by the way, in the NIT as well. They made the NIT with Ole Miss. They are a 4 seed, so they get the number 1 to start off with, St. Louis. Although St. Louis is probably in for a little bit of a test because I think the SEC was deeper than people want to let on. The SEC getting 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. Ole Miss would have been the 7th. Like Mississippi State was the team below that. But I think that league was more difficult than in previous iterations of that league. But Ole Miss, Louisiana Tech, I think Friday. It's either Thursday or Friday. I think it's Friday. It's the 19th, I believe. Actually, you know what? Let me just look that up real quick. Just to make sure I'm not feeding you wrong information. March 19th, 8 p.m. Central. I believe that game's on ESPN2 as well. And the winner gets the winner of Western Kentucky and St. Mary's. It looks like, for once, the NIT is going to be an all-neutral site event. And they're just going to hold the tournament basically in and around Frisco, Texas. I say that because most of the event is in Frisco, Texas. but some of it is at the University of North Texas, which will be in Denton. I think Denton Ryan is what they call it. But Frisco is where, to put this in perspective, it's a deep suburb of Dallas. But they've kind of grown up over the years. FC Dallas moved there about 20 years ago, built a stadium, Toyota Park up there in Frisco. The Cowboys have since built their training facility out there as well, which includes an indoor football stadium that can host high school as well. So the regional school district for Texas actually plays games indoors. So it's a big, booming sports complex that has been built between FC Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys and all that. I don't know if Mark Cuban is involved in the basketball side, but it could be something where the game could be played like near the Star, the training facility. I don't know. I'm going to have to dig a little bit into that. But the point of it is the whole tournament is going to take place basically in the North Texas area, with the Frisco Civic Center getting some and University of North Texas getting some as well. Also, this weekend, Ole Miss took 2 of 3 from Louisiana Monroe. They dropped the Sunday game. Tim Elko still hot. I think he's up to 7 or 8 home runs for the season now, and he's done that in about a 2-week period. Swinging the bat really well. He's seeing beach balls up there. You almost hate to see it end, but like everything, it probably will end. But Tim Elko is knocking the cover off the ball. Ole Miss lost to Louisiana Monroe, but they beat them on Saturday and hit the walk-off Kevin Graham 2-run homer on Saturday, and they just blew them out Friday night. We said last week Gunnar Hoagland, we wanted to see what he looked like as a Friday night starter, as the alpha of the staff, and he really set the tone. He pitched really well, and you can actually see all the talent oozing off of him. I think a career high for strikeouts at 14. It was a big step for Gunnar Hoagland. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Doug Nikhazy might be back this weekend, but it could be a situation where Gunnar gets the ball on Friday night again against, I think it's Auburn. They open up with Auburn or Alabama. I get those mixed up when it comes to baseball. But I will get that to you as necessary. What else is going on? Like I said, we talked about the NIT. We talked about that. After the break today, we're going to go over the tight ends a little bit as their spring prospectus is taken. Tomorrow we'll get to the O-line, and that should wrap us up with the offense. Then we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball. Let's see. We've got the women's selection show for basketball today. Coach Yo and the girls get to learn their fate. The men were on the bubble. They didn't make it. Now, I am concerned about not necessarily the bubble, but that outsiders are allowed to influence the bubble. It makes them more right than wrong because they're all of a sudden using their criteria that the teams are getting picked. Not so much the committee's doing it and people are trying to read the tea leaves on it. But the committee's actually listening to the projections because there's some sense of laziness or whatnot happening that, what Joe Lenardi says for bracketology all of a sudden carries 10 times more weight than it used to because the committee's actually listening to him. If you're listed at first 4 out or next 4 out, all of a sudden the committee is really paying attention to that. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your net, anything to do with your quad 1, quad 2 wins, anything like that. It's just based off whatever criteria he is putting in his algorithm. And it becomes a wag the dog type situation to where, like on the Ole Miss beat inside, the people that are really, really inside and entrenched, that has the same one or two sources that tells them most of the news. And so when that source is wrong, all the inside the bubble is wrong, source is right, everybody's right. And you can see that inside Ole Miss sports quite frequently. But it turns into a wag the dog situation to where you can kind of influence the way the committee is going to go projection wise, because I don't know, their criteria, maybe they don't want to make decisions, maybe they don't want to take ownership of it, maybe they want to take the easy way out. Because you can look at, basically assume that all human beings, no matter how you come across, whenever you're trying to figure out their motivation, assume all human beings are selfish. Assume all human beings are looking for the easiest way to do the most amount of work, and make the most amount of work, the money. I'm sorry, the least amount of work, most amount of money is what I'm trying to say. If you assume that, that kind of helps you with your motivation, because nobody is doing really something for nothing. Nobody is doing something, completely altruistic. There's always something in it for them, or it's extremely easy for them to do. I mean, those are the two things. So when you look at the NCAA basketball committee and you see Ole Miss's resume, which Ole Miss's resume was an NCAA tournament team. It was practically the same resume that got them an 8 seed 2 years ago. But they ended up first 4 out, next 4 out. You started to see that a bunch going in there. And eventually the committee just kind of agreed with that. They just did that. It's not necessarily proving that it was right or that Ole Miss was not an NCAA tournament team or anything like that. It's proving from the outside sources. They said Ole Miss didn't deserve to get in, and then the committee agreed to it. I mean, if you hear it enough, you're going to do it. I mean, then you see that all the time. And I get it. That's the way that it works. But people, as a general course, need to stop listening to opinions from the media so much. I mean, facts are facts. I mean, Ole Miss lost to Vandy. Ole Miss lost to Mississippi State. That might have been their only 2 losses down the stretch, but they still happened. If those doesn't happen, they're in the tournament. Let's say that quite clear. There's still the warts there that was the excuse for the committee to leave them off. And Ole Miss had the slow start due to COVID and all of that stuff. I understand that entirely. But we do need to be careful not to get into a wag the dog type situation, and where minds need to be made up on its own merit. Don't put too much stock in outside opinions of what's going on, because unbiased doesn't exist. People tell you that you can be objectively covered. No, you can't. That doesn't exist. Human nature provides an opinion on just about every scenario. And if that person is in the opinion business, doing a podcast, a radio show, writing a column, whatever they're doing, if they're doing that, there is going to be bias associated with their opinion. Period. I mean, you can't do it otherwise. I mean, a lot of times people trying to play the bias game actually go the other way. To be an Ole Miss guy that's trying to pretend to not be an Ole Miss guy to get credibility and objectivity, and they'll go too far the other way. They'll be hypercritical of everything Ole Miss related, as to though be able to say, no, wait, look, I'm objective. This is the way this works. And that's fine. I get that. But we have to be careful not to let the opinion outside dictate what goes on inside. Now, we can only control ourselves, and we can only control our university. And once we band together and do this and make this a thing, it's going to be a little bit better. It's going to be smaller, but it's going to be a little bit better. And then all of a sudden you'll see hope return and not so much cynicism as a result to Ole Miss sports. The fan base has a chance to grow. And it all starts with not listening to outside opinions. The people that are actually making the decisions just make the decisions based on what's best for us. Don't make the decision based off of outside opinions. It's really tempting to do. It would be really easy to do. There's no sense listening to those opinions because it only hurts the program, as the last 40, 50 years have shown. So we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we will, we will talk about tight ends, and I'll probably get you out of here a little bit early today, just because there's, tight end room's not very deep. It's not going to take very long. Also, really Ole Miss related, but I'm probably going to talk about Yunus Musa committing to the U.S. today in soccer to play for the U.S. men's national team. I'll probably talk about that a little bit at the end. So, until then, stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to the POMcast. Just a little note, tomorrow, Chris Thrasher, the Oxford correspondent, will be making an appearance. He'll be talking about all the action around town and all the thoughts around town, basically about really the NIT. We got some baseball, midweek baseball going into the Louisiana Tech game. They beat Arkansas this weekend. This is going to be a hard midweek game. This is going to be a big test for that pitching staff. It's going to be up to them to make a play. And if they can get through this week and get to the first week of SEC play, there's a chance for them to really make a step. And you should be able to expand on that over the next 2 weeks, win both of those series. You don't have to sweep. Just win both of those series. And all of a sudden, Ole Miss is 16-4 or something going into the Florida series, which is right around sometime in April. It's the third week. It's 3 weeks from now, I believe. So we're going to continue our spring practice perspective, and we're going to do the tight end position this week or today. And because the tight end position is so important, it needs to be addressed. Because it is so unsettled, it is probably the offensive question going into the fall of 2021. Just period. Kenny Yeboah did a fantastic job last year. You will have people that will try and find holes in his game. But for what he was asked to do at Ole Miss, he did a fantastic job. And there should be nobody going against that, anyway. Because he really had a phenomenal year. Senior Bowl invite, he's probably going to get drafted. Because there's a couple of games that he just had monster games this season. And those jump out, including one against Alabama. which is going to be important because it's against Alabama. So they are what they are. You can't pretend they're not. You want to get to where they're going, but doesn't do any good to pretend they're not there where they need to be. And it might be a situation eventually to where, you bring Alabama down, you bring Ole Miss up, and you meet somewhere in the middle. That's usually the way it works. There's some semblance of a decline at the same time of an ascension. And there's going to be a meeting point. So this season should be fantastic to watch. But tight end, Kenny Yeboah was the guy this year. But behind him, Chase Rogers and Casey Kelly was on there. And Casey Kelly obviously caught the touchdown pass against Indiana. Here it is. And, taking into account that, he played a fantastic game, showed really good hands at the game. May not be the most super athletic guy, but he obviously can do the part. And he would be an effective goal line and short yardage option coming off the bench. Chase Rogers, the transfer from Louisiana Lafayette, got in there, did some good things as well. But the highlight probably of the spring practice that everybody is going to be looking at is Hudson Wolf, the true freshman out of I'm going to say just Southern Tennessee, but it's basically the Savannah area, I believe. I could get that wrong, but somewhere in West Tennessee and Southern Tennessee. He's not that far from campus, that's the point. He sat out last year because of an injury and got to Ole Miss and got cleared. If you look at his huddle video, there's a couple of fantastic catches showing me good hands. If he can catch in traffic and do all the things that are going to be required, there's a chance for him to be really special. Because remember, this offense is really designed for the slot and the tight end to do most of the damage. The outside receivers, they're great, but you want them to be talented, but they're not the same ones. The slot and the tight end are two that are utilized as game-breaking weapons. So tight ends are going to be recruited at a high level. It's easier to get a tight end because not many people are actually utilizing them currently that you can slip in and get them. And the slot receiver the same way. It's kind of a thunder and lightning type scenario in there. And we went over the slot the other day. It's also a big spring for Ja'Cour Pearson, the transfer, J.J. Henry. I think he's there in the fall. But John Rice Plumlee will have a huge impact on that position group. But he's playing baseball. J.J. Henry, I think, is still in school. Ja'Cour Pearson has a chance to take ownership of that position going into the summer. And it is important to have ownership of that position. It's better to be first going in than having to work your way up to it because you're relying on that gap to close. If you're on the other side of that gap, that's a much better situation for you as a player. But Hudson Wolf at tight end, his huddle video flashed, great potential at that position. He was a long-time Tennessee commit, eventually decommitted, and came to Ole Miss. But if he has a big spring, which he's in Oxford, if he has a big spring, there's a chance he could get a decent amount of playing time as a true freshman. When Harrison Bryant was at FAU, his first year under Lane Kiffin, he got fairly significant amount of playing time. Lane Kiffin is not afraid to play freshmen. He just wants to play the best weapon for best position. That's what he does. And if Hudson Wolf can adapt and do all the things he needs to do to college football in the spring, he will be in a good position come the fall. And that doesn't matter who transfers in that position. I'm talking about just generally. because Hudson Wolf is that talented. As far as a tight end goes, he might be the most talented tight end since Rufus to step foot on this campus. Now, whether he can reach his potential, that's a whole nother story. But the talent is there. I mean, fantastic hands. Unbelievable frames. Like a 6'6", 6'7" kid. 250, 255 pounds. He has a chance to be really special. And I project him somewhere in the ballpark of O.J. Howard at Alabama as type of player. But you will see them running routes to get him open. They will use the slot receiver to create separation because there's a lot of crossing that goes on between the two. It's designed to basically screw up linebackers, and that's how you always see people running wide open. And then you got the double moves on the outside. He's not here now, but watch Braylon Brown. That kid would have been a 5-star player, I believe, if the camps and everything would have been allowed to go normal. He is a severely underrated player, and that is saying something. He is a mid-range 4-star now. So that is our prospectus on the tight end position. When we come back tomorrow, we will do the offensive line. Not a lot to get to for offensive line. We're losing one player, Royce Newman. How we replace him, I think hint Eli Acker. I think he has a chance to step up. But I'm going to give you a couple of minutes back, and I do appreciate you joining us. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, go to our Twitch channel, and subscribe. You will always know when we go live, and you will not miss a thing. Until tomorrow, I'm Stephen Willis. This has been the POMcast. Hotty toddy.